Police want the public's help to find the man they say poured kerosene on a Fort Sanders nurse. KPD saying it happened after 7 o'clock last night as that nurse was walking to her car.
Investigators gave an update in this case a short while ago. WBIR 10 News reporter Stephanie Haynes joins us with the very latest. Stephanie?
Robin and John, at this point, police believe the assault was random, but they aren't ruling anything out. And police also say that people in the Fort Sanders neighborhood should not be worried. Plus, they don't think this suspect is connected to the attack on Officer B.K. Hardin while he was directing game day traffic in the neighborhood a few months ago.
Knoxville police are looking for a man they say poured kerosene on a Fort Sanders nurse Sunday night.
Very traumatizing incident that occurred to her, and our investigators are talking to her, and obviously we're doing everything that we can to try to locate this suspect.
Investigators say the suspect is 5 feet 9 inches, wearing a white hoodie or jacket, and they believe this suspect approached the nurse, said something derogatory, and poured less than a gallon of kerosene on her as she was heading back to her car, which investigators say was across from the emergency room. Without being specific, police say they've taken several steps to keep people safe in the area.
That's the only incident that we've had. We've had no other reports of something similar to that.
Police stress that people who live in Fort Sanders should not be worried.
It is the most populated area in the city of Knoxville. When you have thousands upon thousands of students that live in that area, it's a very close area.
Knoxville police want to also stress the nurse did nothing wrong. And there are general steps that everyone can take to be more aware of their surroundings.
Put the blame on her. The blame goes squarely on this suspect.
Retired FBI agent Ricky Hill says whenever you feel something is off, leave and go get help.
Again, the two things that you want to keep in mind in any situation: situational awareness and survival.
If you have any information, call the Knoxville Police Crime Information Line at the number you see towards the bottom of your screen, or message the department on Facebook. Robin and John.
Stephanie Haynes on the update. Thank you.